I'm surprised by this survey going back here. First, so I'm surprised that it's only 66% don't want their kindergartners learning about transgenderism, right? And then I'm also kind of surprised that it's as high as 80% of school board members. Maybe it's just because I'm in California and all of our school board members, it's like 100% of our school board members want this. But that seems low for parents. What do you think of that?
I think that is the product of cancel culture. I think that this survey and similar surveys that we've done have shown that a very high number of parents are unwilling to answer the question, or they simply say they don't know. And I think that is a result of the threats that we face now from the left, that they are going to punish anybody for disagreeing with their orthodoxy on gender identity. And people are aware of what's going on, with authors having their books canceled by Amazon, like Abigail Schreier and Brian Anderson, who've written about transgender ideology. They know that, there's social pressure and economic pressure to conform to transgender ideology. And I think that's why they're afraid to say what they truly believe in surveys.
Let me give you an example of pressure to conform. This is the NC2A. They put out a statement. The NC2A Board of Governors firmly, unequivocally supports the opportunity for transgender student athletes to compete in college sports. This would be men competing in women's sports. When determining where championships are held, the NC2A policy directs that only locations where hosts can commit to providing an environment that is safe, healthy, and free of discrimination should be selected, on and on and on. That's what? What's happening? Like, what women are in favor of men competing in women's sports? I don't see how anyone could be in favor of that.
Well, I think the NCAA has unfortunately chosen politics over the integrity of sports. They are conforming to what they think corporate America wants. And corporate America is using all of their financial power to basically destroy women's sports. We've seen in states like South Dakota and Arkansas that major corporations that are being lobbied by the Human Rights Campaign have come out in opposition to protecting fairness for women and girls who are athletes. So big corporations like Walmart, the whole Fortune 500 has endorsed the Equality Act that would destroy, fair competition for women and girls all over the country.
Oh, that's amazing. This march through the institutions. And I'm so discouraged by the fact that obviously it's taken over the universities. We've known that for a while. But the fact that it's even taken over business as the last domino to fall, that's so discouraging because I don't know what one does to stand up against this, quite frankly. Let me ask you twofold how we do stand up to it, or what you would say. First, to the group of people that I think is the vast majority of people who just want to be compassionate, right? And they want to do the right thing. They want to be seen as nice. What do you say to that group of people, that group of parents who are like, no, let's teach this to kindergartners because that's the nice, because it's, open and blah, blah. What do you say to that group?
Well, I think every person has human dignity and should be treated with respect, and that includes people who identify as gay or transgender. So they should absolutely have the protection of all the freedoms that other Americans have. But I think when you're talking about imposing an orthodoxy on the medical profession and on education, you're actually talking about imposing a very dangerous ideology, especially when it comes to children, because the harms of treating children who have gender dysphoria, according to political viewpoints, those harms are irreversible and tragic. So what I'm talking about is when you have a little child who gets confused about their gender because maybe they're indoctrinated in school, and then they say to their, mom or dad, like, I might be, a girl trapped in a boy's body. Well, at that point, a lot of doctors would say you should just, wait until that child reaches puberty and just go through this period of watchful waiting, because most kids, 88% to 98%, end up becoming comfortable with their sex. But what transgender ideologues say, and what they want to put into law, is that doctors must treat children according to their beliefs. So that means going on hormones as young as 9, ultimately going on to have surgeries to basically castrate themselves. And this would lead to irreversible harms, not only the loss of their fertility, would sterilize them, but also it would lead to harms to their entire systems, their cardiovascular systems, their bone density, and their mental health. the transgender ideology leads to children being more likely to attempt and commit suicide rather than less.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's one of the narratives that you have to let kids take puberty blockers and get a sex change operations, if that's even a thing. Because if they don't, they'll commit suicide. And it's we can't be threatened like that when the reality is it's the opposite, as is usually the case. What do you say to the parent who says, this doesn't affect my kid, right? My kid's not transgender. So what's the big deal? I guess the question is, what are the societal implications of this that go just beyond the individual person?
Well, I think it actually does affect most children in this country if something like the Equality Act is to pass, or even the Biden executive orders, because children are being indoctrinated in their schools through all of the policies that I described, the sports policies, the bathroom and locker room policies, even the preferred pronoun policies, that their teachers have to address kids by preferred transgender pronouns rather than by biological sex. And then the danger of a federal mandate for gender identity curriculum across the country that would affect all children. It could affect not only, as I said, the public schools, but it could even reach into any private schools that accept federal funds from K through 12 to universities. So there really isn't a place for parents to hide. I know some parents say, well, homeschooling is the answer, but you can't just keep kids in the home. Kids go into society, they go into public accommodations, they go into shopping malls and restaurants, they go into parks and recreation centers, and all those places would have transgender, facilities, policies. And then if they want to compete in sports at any level, whether it's K through 12, college, or even, professional, they would have to follow this transgender policy. And of course, no parent really, thinks their child is transgender until the child becomes confused about their gender. And what we see now is social contagion, massive uprise in the number of children identifying as trans. And with all of these government policies, that's only going to go up.
Amazing. My last question for you, Ms. Kao. Why are they doing this? Like, as you're talking, I'm just like, this is so fast and so out of nowhere and so wildly unnecessary. What's the real root ideological drive for the small number of activists who are pushing this?
Well, I definitely think it comes from critical theory. So critical gender theory basically is the destruction of what it means to be male and female and the destruction of the nuclear family. And that's what Black Lives Matter has openly advocated for, is to destroy the nuclear family. And by undermining the rights of parents to raise their children according to, the belief that we're born male and female, that male and female are created for each other, that mothers and fathers are unique and each one matters, that does destroy the nuclear family. There is an important movement that your watchers should be aware of called the Promise to America's Children. And that is a movement of parents across the country, concerned citizens, and state and federal lawmakers who are trying to pass legislation like the bill in Arkansas, the SAFE Act, that protects adolescents from experimenting on their bodies to treat gender dysphoria. So it bans hormonal and surgical castration and sterilization of children.
Yeah, we definitely need more laws like that. Heritage.org, it's the Promise to America's Children. Emilie Kao, appreciate your insight. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks for watching the Heritage Foundation's YouTube channel. With more than 500,000 members, we are the nation's largest conservative research and education institution. We believe the principles and ideas of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing. Please help us further our mission by subscribing to this channel and sharing our videos with your family and friends.